Hello everyone, I'm Rebecca Keppel. I'm super excited to be back on ThermoWeb's YouTube channel today to help introduce the brand new Decofoil toner card fronts by Unity. And these are absolutely gorgeous. They're A2 size. You can see all these different patterns that they come in, and anything that is toner or black is able to be foiled. So the first one there is Paisley Dreams, then Tranquil Leaves, then we have Majestic Moths, Wild Garden, and Rosy Days. Here are a few decofoils that go really well and that are also on sale for this release. So the way that I like to do it is to foil everything all at once. I have Tranquil Leaves with the toner print facing up, and I have my emerald watercolor with the silver side down and the color facing me. I put that inside a folded piece of parchment paper. I make sure my laminator is really good and hot, and I take the fold of that parchment paper sandwich and insert it into the laminator. So I have all of these foiled, and then I go through and peel and reveal. Isn't that absolutely beautiful? The Paisley Dreams is so much fun, so much shine there. This one came out so well that I decided to show you what I do with those pieces when they come out that good. I use those leftover pieces with the peel and stick toner sheets. So take the leftover foil that hasn't been used yet and place it down on a toner sheet. Cut the toner sheet around so it's slightly larger. Same way, the silver goes down on the toner. This whole thing goes into a parchment paper sandwich, goes through the laminator, and then when you peel it off, the foil that had been left behind transfers to the toner sheet, and the places that are open are now black because the base is black. So it is just a fun way to use up those foil transfer sheets after you've used them on the card fronts like this. And here are the two opposites. So I'm going to continue to peel and reveal the Rosy Days here, the Majestic Moths. I decided to kind of make them butterflies, so I'm going to just stick with butterflies. Here's Wild Garden. So pretty, so much shine, and the designs are absolutely beautiful. You can just use them as is, and these are the Tranquil Leaves. Just gorgeous. So one thing you can do is do a little watercolor resist, because the foil will resist some watercoloring. Now, I'm not going to use a lot of water, and so because this is not watercolor paper, it is just cardstock, but it is smooth cardstock. So you can get something like a Caran brush marker, which moves really well on smooth paper, and just use a tiny bit of the marker to add some color to the bases of the wings or the outstretched parts of the wings, and then use a very fine paintbrush with just tiny droplets of water to move that color around. And look at how much fun these moths, now butterflies because I'm coloring them so bright, are when you add a little bit of color to them. They're already outstanding, and you could absolutely use them as is without doing anything else to them, but it's so much fun to add your own coloring to them as well. So I went along with the foil that I used and added some yellow and some pink to those wings so that most of the butterflies themselves, or the moths, are going to be completely colored in. Some of it will be foil and some of it will be watercolor, and then that white just pops with all of those bright colors. So I love the way this looks. For this one, I decided to do some very just basic strokes on the leaves themselves. Again, most of the foiling is just going to resist the water, so you don't have to worry. You can just swipe right over those leaves. The other thing I decided to do, I didn't want it too dark, so I'm going to scribble some of the Caran brush marker down onto some of that parchment paper that I had left over there and add a few droplets of water to really lighten it up. And then I'm going to color in the background. So don't feel that you need to stick with the white in the background. You can absolutely add some blue like I'm doing here, or some other coloring as well. You can also ink on these if you prefer to do that, but I have been really loving these Caran brush markers. They are, to me, so easy to use. I am not a watercolor artist at all, and I find these very, very flexible to use, make it really easy to move the color around. So that was so much fun to have kind of a different colored background for the Unity toner card fronts that are all white cardstock. I'm going to do that same technique because I didn't want anything, again, too dark. If you don't mind having a dark to light gradient on the paper, you can use the brush tip right on the paper and then spread it out with some of the water. I felt like the pink was hard for me to move around the last time I did it with the moths. So I decided this time to add the water and ink to a piece of parchment paper. That allows me to have a more smooth color for that pink instead of having it be really tough to get it to blend out. So I'm going to do a little bit of orange here because some of the foiling between the pink and the yellow has a really pretty orange color. So I did a little bit of orange and then I'm doing a little bit of yellow. And this time I'm sticking into the coloring of the roses and the flowers. For the Paisley Dreams, I am going to just do a little bit of coloring and then just a teeny tiny bit of water. This time I am mostly depending on the marker itself. I'm not blending out too much. I did add, because these spaces are so tiny. Now for these cards, I decided to let the backgrounds really be the star of the show. So I cut a lot of them down to 4 by 5 1/4 so that I can mat them on coordinating colors of cardstock. And I use my tape runner to adhere everything together because they are just paper and cardstock. For this piece, I die cut a piece of vellum into kind of an angle with a stitching on the outside, faux stitching. And you can see that the tape runner pretty much hides behind that vellum. There was a little bit there, so I decided to use one of the Unity Stamps sentiments right on top. I just cut a bunch of their sentiments down into sentiment strips, and I'm going to add all of them to these cards. So really, really simple to let all of the work that you did with the foiling and the watercoloring really shine. This one I also cut down so that I can mat it on some silver glitter cardstock, and I just can't get over how pretty the watercoloring looks on the foiling. I have a pink glitter cardstock flag and another Unity stamp sentiment. I'm going to use some Ultra Bond liquid adhesive to adhere the sentiment strip down to that pink glitter cardstock because I feel like the liquid adhesive does better when you're adhering to a glitter cardstock like this, and the Ultra Bond is a really nice, strong liquid adhesive, perfect for that. And again, I'm just going to leave that as is because look at all that shine. For the one that we created on the toner background, I am going to trim that down because remember we had kind of made the cut of the toner paper a little wonky, so I trimmed it down to 4 by 5 1/4. I'm going to use some Gina K for Thermoweb black foam squares behind a black strip that I've put the Unity sentiment strip on top of that just says "You are wonderful." I'm just going to leave this one as is. I just think that is so fantastic. So this time I'm going to cut a die cut flag out of the card front. So I've placed it in a spot where I can put purple tape on the white part there so it won't remove the foiling. And then I'm going to end up placing the sentiment strip behind that flag. So I put a little bit of tape runner on the front of both edges of the sentiment strip. Then I'm just going to lay the sentiment strip down flat and then put my die cut opening on top of that and just press down to adhere it to the back there. I think that looks really cute with the little window cut out of the butterflies or moths, sorry. And now I'm just going to put a little tape runner behind the whole thing and put that on top of some wood grain embossed cardstock. Again, super, super simple, but I just love those watercolored moths in the background and just all that shine from the foil. Okay, for the Paisleys, I am going to cut it down to 4 by 5 1/4, mat it on some purple cardstock this time. You can see that I did just some basic coloring. It's almost like one of those adult coloring pages where you just kind of do the Zentangles and things like that. So I'm going to put a blue scalloped circle on top of that and then put the stamped sentiment that says "Love You" on a stitch circle on top of that. Again, keep these really simple because they're so beautiful. You don't really want to cover a lot up. Again, you don't even have to do the watercoloring. For this one, I did no watercoloring. I just foiled it and added the sentiment on some vellum. So I hope I've inspired you to check out the brand new Unity card fronts by ThermoWeb. If you're interested in these and any of the other supplies that I used today, they'll all be linked down in the YouTube description box below. I want to thank you so much for spending time with us today. Have a wonderful day.